This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, failings? This is Steven, your host with Fantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends, Jake and Josh, here with me, and we're talking about The Narrow Road Between Desires, the new Patrick Rothfuss novella, aka the revamped version of The Lightning Tree, which came out a few years ago and is included in the Rogues anthology. But I'm guessing maybe not a lot of people read that, or people are seeing the new Rothfuss novella and are just kind of like wondering what this is because they know Rothfuss for other reasons. And so we're going to do a little review of the book, but we're not going to do any spoilers first. We'll start with just some non-spoiler conversation about what this novella is, if it's worth reading, etc. And then we'll kind of get into some spoiler thoughts as we go. So that said, what is this novella, Jake and Josh?
It's I would call it like a character study of Bast. I might be cheating by using content from the author's note at the end, but
I don't think that's cheating.
Similar to
he wrote the note.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cheating isn't. This isn't my great analysis. This is me taking analysis from the author himself. Right. I feel like in The Name of the Wind, more so compared to other fantasy novels, there's not as much like huge plot points happening. It's more like you experiencing Quoth's life. It feels more real to life, and that it's not a perfectly like arced plot in that way. And I think this story is to Kingkiller Chronicles the way Killer Chronicles is to other fantasy, where not a ton happens really in terms of like overarching like rising action, et cetera, when it comes to like the standard plot. But you really get to see a good look into who Bast is as a person, and from there kind of a look into what the Fae are really like in the world of Patrick Rothfuss.
Temerant,
yeah,
is the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my take.
I think that's a great summary. This is almost like it feels almost like a long poem or something. I mean, it's definitely not like a poem, right? But like it almost reads that way. And like you said, the plot isn't really the main point of it. It's very beautifully written, as is all of Rothfuss's works, but this one feels like it's a little bit, some added sprinkles on there. And it has an almost dreamlike quality of like sequences as it moves through the events of the book. They're connected events, but they but yeah, it feels like almost a little bit like of a fairy tale / like epic poem or something like that. At least that's the impression I got when I was reading it. I also think that Rothfuss continues to pull out the best titles in the industry. Steven and I were talking a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Like this title just perfectly summarizes the book. It's a pretty title. It sticks with you. It's identifiable. I mean, he just has a knack for words in general, but titling books especially.
Yeah, I think, again, dipping into the author's note, I think what I once thought was just a simple knack, not to push back on what you said at all, I realize is more of a obsessive strive for perfection. And I think he hits perfection a lot, but I could see how grueling that process would be.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, I think we're going to get into more of the meta conversation maybe after we talk about the book a bit, but it would be so hard to know that you are capable of such great things.
Yeah.
And then feel like you're not hitting it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know, because I don't have anything in my life where like I'm like that good at it. You know what I mean? But like if I did, it would be really hard to turn in something less, I guess.
Yeah, and it's weird. I thought the story itself was really good, but I think this book is almost worth buying just for the aforementioned author's note at the end. I think it is like such a good look into Patrick Rothfuss himself as a human being and as an author. So
yeah, there's obviously a lot of conversation around him and in book 3, which he doesn't want to hear about, but is really it's not really possible to discuss Rothfuss at this point without even, without touching on that. I will say, just to stick on the book a little bit more before we get into that, I would say that Slow Regard of Silent Things is more of a poem than this one is. Like, it does have a plot to it. It's Bass' adventures over the course of a day, and there's not any like big action at all, or any enemies that need to be vanquished or anything. But it's just him kind of going about, and but the events do come together in a good way at the end. Little bit of a, not a huge twist, but a little bit of a twist, and there's some good payoff for what's been happening, and it's obviously very well written throughout. I thought, the story just has a lot of heart in it, and I'll say, I think people are going to be wondering, should they pick up this book? If you're a big fan of Kingkiller Chronicle in general, like, absolutely, it's definitely worth reading. It's more than, I'll be honest, I don't know if I even read all of Slow Regard of Silent Things. I at least like skimmed through most of it, but it was just, literally nothing happens in that book. It's really just, if you want to read a bunch of nice prose,
You want to get to know Ari.
Yeah. But that even less, because I don't remember much of a plot at all, other than she's just kind of like journeying around and collecting her different things.
It's more like getting a look inside her head, but
here at least we do have a plot. Like, there is a bit of a climax twist of sorts, and it's not huge at all, but it's more interesting from a, like, I don't know, from a perspective of, do you want some things to happen? Then this has more than Slow Regard of Silent Things. So I would say, like, if someone was asking me, should I pick up Slow Regard of Silent Things, and if they're just a Kingkiller fan, I'd be like, you don't really need to. Like, I'm a big Kingkiller fan, and I didn't even really get through it very well, or I barely remember it. But this one, I would say you should, if you're a fan of his books. If you're just like a general fantasy fan, maybe you might enjoy it. Like, you're gonna enjoy the book, but where it's a novella, I think people kind of have some questions.
I think if you are down to just read novellas in general, definitely. Obviously, if you're looking for like a full-length epic fantasy novel, this isn't that.
Right.
But I feel like, and I'm glad you're on this, Josh, to bounce this off of. It felt very Stephen King-esque to me. Lots of heart. It might have been because there's lots of younger characters, but there's a couple scenes that get kind of spooky in an eerie way, which is, kind of what you think of when you think of the Fae, the type of Fae that Rothfuss does. But yeah, it was like, I've just recently read Something Wicked This Way Comes, which made me think of Stephen King as well. And I think this was kind of a similar vein, which it really
is, with, especially if it were from the kids' perspective of like them kind of stumbling upon this far greater force than they are without really understanding it, not super defined rules that they would be aware of, and some having good hearts and some people maybe not having as good of hearts. It's just I've definitely got that feeling as well, like the Stephen King feeling, and I'm glad that you brought it up.
Like, exactly. If this was written through not the main kid he interacts with, but the first kid he interacts with, like, actually either of their perspectives, it would have felt like a classic Stephen King type story. Like,
so who is this? In summary, we're saying, if you like fantasy, sure, pick it up. Realize it's a short novella, and just, hopefully you're not disappointed by that. So know that going in. And if you're looking for book 3, it's not book 3. So, like, stop complaining that it's not book 3, because it's not.
I am prepared to go on a full-on rant again. I don't know where this belongs in this episode, In the past, I've always been the one who's pushed back more on the Patrick Rothfuss hate. And I am fully planted, confident that, there was I could see both sides, but I'm fully planted on the side of Patrick Rothfuss doesn't owe anybody anything. If this is all we ever get from the Kingkiller Chronicles, you should just be thankful you got any of it. That's where I stand.
I thought you were about to switch sides with the way you were building that up. I had no idea which way you were about to go.
I know it was for the drama.
Yeah, what a tease.
I agree to an extent. If he keeps promising a book 3, then I think it is misleading if he's not going to produce it.
He's not misleading. He's trying. It's so clear he's trying. It's not like people like to paint him as if he's just greedily oh yeah, I'll do book 3 while doing nothing. Obviously he's trying.
I don't think that's the case.
Whole charity chapter thing really was mishandled. I don't know what all.
I agree with that.
Behind that,
I agree with that.
If we set that aside,
I agree with that. That was mishandled for sure. But just in general, the idea of he's written 2 books in a supposed trilogy, and the 3rd book, it's been 10 plus years. I'm firmly planted, 100% confident that, not confident, but 100% feel you'd not owed a book 3. It'd be nice to have one, but
of course that's not an arguable statement. You're right in that, but also I think that people
argue it all the time.
No, I don't. I think I think that the other side of that is that people still feel misled and kind of betrayed, and I think that feeling is also valid. Of course, you're not necessarily owed it, like you're saying, you're not entitled to it. But when when the author is leading you to believe that it is almost complete and has been since the first book came out, then those feelings are valid, and you're allowed to feel frustrated with that.
I will say that he's not actively telling people on X, Twitter, that
formerly known as Twitter.
You tried, right. Steven.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it anymore. Sorry. He's not actively on there book 3 is coming out any day, guys. Buy into my Patreon and you'll get
No,
it's not anything. He's not doing that, and
you're right.
He's really quiet about it. So there's certainly been some statements in the past that if you dig them up, they look pretty damning, and it's dang, where's our book? It's supposed to be here years ago. But I feel like he probably made some mistakes and he wishes that didn't happen. And
yeah. And I fully agree with you on that point, Josh. But in the past, we've had this argument, and the argument has been, are we entitled to a book 3 before? And I don't think anyone's entitled to it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, of course, it's not we can just, and entitled is a weird word because we can't make him, just.
Well, yeah, but just ethically, morally, I don't think he's morally obligated to get it out.
I think he's morally obligated to communicate with his fans what his intentions are.
And I feel like he did that a little bit in the author's note / forward.
Yeah.
You get, it's not a direct, here's my status with book 3. Here's why it's been so hard. But if you kind of read between the lines, you get the sense that, especially I think in the forward to the book, he talks about how much of a struggle it is for him to actually get the words out sometimes. But then he says in this project, he was able to really get the creative juices going. And that's why this happened. So, read between the lines. It sounds like what he's saying is, I'm trying, I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm. To me, as an analogy, it would be if you're kind of on a break with somebody that you used to date, and then you're on a break, and then they're not telling you, they're leading you on and not really telling you. They're oh yeah, I think maybe next month, or maybe eventually we can get back together, but it's not letting the other person move on. You know what I mean? And so that person
he's not leading he's not leading us on.
Okay, friends.
I'm just trying to come up with a good example because there is
I got a good example along the same lines. You break up because Patrick Rothfuss is a person in a relationship that needs to sort through some stuff before they can resume the relationship. And it's that person who keeps saying, I'm trying, I'm working, I'm trying to work through it. And at some point you might be okay, I can't wait for you anymore. But
yeah,
there's no
Patrick Rothfuss is super hot and you're way into Patrick Rothfuss. And so the fact that, you had this, right, the fact that you had this impassioned relationship before with the first two books, you're like, maybe he'll get it sorted out and he'll come back to me. And so you don't necessarily want to commit to someone else because, Patrick, who's super hot, could be coming back at any point.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe you, in your mind, you really hope that, but he's not necessarily giving you any signals if that's
that person
happening or
knows,
not.
if that person knows that there's no chance that they're ever getting back to you, or that it's very little, then they have a moral
No one knows
obligation.
that.
But I don't think he feels that way.
Yeah.
I get the sense that he really wants to write the book and he's giving an honest effort, and it's just really hard. And I think if you also kind of look behind the scenes of what happened with The Lightning Tree to The Narrow Road Between Desires, like this was The Lightning Tree was a novella that was fully complete. And so he went back and revised it, and he added I don't remember the numbers, like
words or
10 to 15,000 words. Yeah. So we added a bunch of words to it, cleaned up a bunch. We had Jason from Phantology Discord read both of them. And he said, honestly, I couldn't tell a huge difference. There were a few scenes that were added. Most of it seemed like a tweaking of words and phrasings and emphasizing different things. So definitely a better product, but not anything brand new. So if Patrick was so into this and took all this time to perfect this, shorter work, right? That gives you a sense of okay, it's probably why a full-length book and a book that's the culmination of his series, supposedly, that's why it's taking so long, because he just took a, significant amount of time perfecting this much shorter story. So that's that's what he wants to do. That's his, that's the way it works.
And the reason I bring this up is because although publicly in the Phantology space, I have always been I don't like it when consumers get entitled with act like they're owed some sort of product, especially from the art world. Even though I've been publicly that way, I've been frustrated with come on, when is this coming out? And should he be doing more? And what is really the issue? And because of that, I was kind of 50-50 about whether I wanted to read this, just because I was it's not what I really want is book 3, and as do I want to do this to myself? But so I brought that up to say reading this made me I really enjoyed the story itself. It felt so good to be getting Patrick Rothfuss writing again. And also it made me have more empathy for him as an individual. And I think I don't know. I think for those of you who are in my same position where you're I'm looking for book 3, I'm going to pass on this, I think you should really read it. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah. I totally agree with that. You should definitely read. Well, again, I think it is hard to want to continually financially support somebody if you do not feel like you want to. You know what I mean? If you feel betrayed or frustrated. I think that those feelings are valid. I think it's perfectly valid to say then, well, I'm not gonna, give that person money.
Check it out from the library.
But I think the quality,
that's what I did.
But I think that first of all, I think that personally, I'm not nearly there. I would buy this book and I would, recommend that people buy it. I might still buy it for Mackenzie because I think she would enjoy it.
The art's cool in it.
Yeah. So I'm not there. I'm just saying that I think that is a valid, same reason why people might not want to read Sanderson because of his belief system or whatever. That's valid if they feel like that. You know what I mean?
Or J.K. Rowling.
Or J.K. Rowling. All of those things are valid, but I don't quote unquote agree. I am fine reading all those authors and stuff, but that position is, I think, a valid position to have.
Anyway. So I guess hopefully people go into the novella knowing what it is and don't come out frustrated because they are expecting something that it's not.
Yeah, and I get my whole point was if you are anxiously awaiting book 3 and you're I don't want to read anything but book 3, I think you should give this a chance because it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah. And I've been trying to write, not a ton, but I have been trying, and reading this was, a little bit of a boost to my creative juices because of all the, beautiful things that he writes, and it, kicked up my aspirations a little bit. So there's that too.
Did you hear that too, Josh?
Yeah, I did. Hey, I feel like we're in like 5th grade, Jake.
I got it. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I said it. Okay, so let's talk about the book. We have like 20 minutes here, so we'll see how much we get into it. But so we get into the actual story. Like, what did you guys enjoy from there wasn't a ton of action, like we said, but what were some highlights from the story?
So this is spoilers now?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. The part where he performs the ritual with the charm for I can't remember anyone's names. So bad that
So the main kid was Reich.
Reich, yeah.
Yeah. He's got the Emerald charms, which supposedly are like more impactful to Temerant than we understand, but I don't. Yeah.
Sorry, not Reich, the second boy, the boy he does the pact with, the blood oath with.
Oh, the kid that he has like the long negotiation with.
Yeah.
I don't remember that kid's name. Yeah.
Anyways,
okay.
That kid, when he's like, I own you, I was like, he's kind of being rough on him. And I was like, he did a really good job of showing Faye are like really volatile and they don't follow the same logic. But then when he does the final ritual with the charm he made from the river rock and everything, and he's like, I own every bit of you, and I'm keeping like these insecurities. And that was like, again, started so spooky and eerie and then just ended so heartwarming. Like, I don't know, I felt that was very powerful to me. But
it showed you a lot of sides of Bast's character, and it kind of made you like, it was a bit of a tease where you're like, okay, what is a Fae exactly? Like, what is Bast capable of? But by the end, like, he does have a good heart, and especially the way that he, drove off the abusive father, which was the main storyline. Like the way that all came together, that was really nice.
And I thought it was cleverly done, where like there's little seeds, like everything kind of came together like an episode of Seinfeld. And you get the little seeds throughout. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like he has that random thing where he goes off to
this is
Crazy
just an episode
Martin's.
of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I guess we could reimagine it as Seinfeld, but okay.
And then just the vibe was so good. My only critique would be Bast, and it might be I'm not used to the audiobook narrator. Bast felt like almost a different character than he has felt, and he seemed darker. And even though there were some dark moments in this book, he seemed darker in the Kingkiller Chronicles than he did in this. He seemed much more whimsical, and maybe that was just because it was through his POV. But
I didn't listen to it. Is it the same narrator?
It's the same narrator as Name of the Wind, but I haven't listened to Name of the Wind really. So
I've read and listened to Name of the Wind a few times, so I don't know if I would pick up on that. But no, I mean, I agree with you that we haven't really got the Bast POV before, and so it is a little bit different.
And I don't know if it was meant, like, I don't know if he was like putting on different kind of personas depending on who he was talking to, and maybe that was it. But I was a little put off by that in the beginning. But
I mean, Name of the Wind, Kingkiller, and Wiseman's Fear, both. I mean, the Quoth parts they're not like the parts with Bast are not first person, but it is kind of like Quoth's perspective, and you get a little bit of what is Bast capable of, but not a ton. And we still don't have much of the Quoth Bast backstory. And even at the end of this novella, when Bast comes back in, there's really like no indication that Quoth realizes that Bast was the one that drove the abusive father off, right?
Yeah, and maybe that was it. Him interacting with Quoth, he didn't seem like the same as he was in the other book. But I don't know. But yeah. What about you, Josh? What were your takeaways, the highs, the lows?
Yeah, pretty much what you guys talked about. I think just I always like the dealings, kind of like in Wheel of Time, like the Aes Sedai truths, you know what I mean? Like just seeing how he's going to spin things, like with the last question, he put like a leading question for the kid to ask. Like those things are always really enjoyable for me. I think that seeing his anxieties too, when he just kind of like plays things out on like how bad things could go, like that always adds a little bit of tension. And then the plot, like the plot was, like I was saying, I definitely, there is a plot, there are events that happen. It's a little bit different than just like a rising action, climax, falling action, etc. But like the events were super interesting. And then just seeing Quoth or Coat or whatever, like just hearing more words from him, it's always a delight, kind of, you know what I mean? So that was very small. You probably said maybe 100 words total the entire book or whatever, but it's always fun to hear from him.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned there about, Bass insecurities and fears about what the kids might do. I think that the weaknesses of, Bass Faye nature really added a lot to the book, because without that, it kind of makes Bass seem like this weird predator who's preying upon the kids of the town. But, when you turn it around and it's like, well, the one kid had, power over him, didn't realize it, but he's got these weaknesses. And also the way that he handled the girl's name that was bathing, like at first it's like, okay, this is kind of creepy. But then it turns out that like she told the kid and like kind of set it up. So then it's like, okay, really like who has the power here?
It did still at times come across a little too creepy.
A
little too predatory.
It did a bit
in general,
but it was pretty creepy.
The fact that she like set that up made it not as problematic in my opinion.
But just in general, that he's like, I got this lightning tree where I meet all the youths of the town. It's kind of weird. I kind of had to chalk that up to he's a Fae, so maybe just different. I don't know. But I was just thinking, like, what are these kids' parents thinking that they like all these kids go and meet up?
Well, I mean, the parents don't know. That's one of the rules, right? You're not supposed to tell any adults.
Right. But if they did know, it'd come across a little creepy. And then another surprising thing that Bast is seen as kind of like a town idiot almost by the parents or something.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Right. Like they think he's just this simple-minded assistant.
I really liked the like exploration of Fey magic a lot more. That was cool. Like that's something that's kind of been hinted at and we've seen glimpses of, but never.
It got more like of a direct explanation. I feel like Rothfuss has directly explained that before. Maybe because it's in the lightning tree. I'm assuming it's pretty similar. But the Grammare and the Glamour, like that explanation was interesting. I feel like I almost understand it, but I'm still not 100% sure what the difference is, to be honest.
So Glamour is all
the
about
difference
illusions,
between what a thing is and making a thing to be something like that, in a nicely written way.
I think like Grammar is what we saw him do with the boy at the end of the book. Like the boy is still the boy, but he molded him to be a specific potentiality of himself.
I like that. And the part at the end where the boy was, super concerned that he was gonna become a danger like his father, and Bast was, like you're not bad type, like, that there was a lot of heart there, and I thought that was a real nice message to close the book on.
Makes me want more of Bast now, not just more book 3, just more.
I mean, we assume in book 3 like there must be the story of how they like Quoth and Bast met and why he's even there. We still don't know that.
Book 3 could have the amount of content it could have varies so much. Like it could really just end up to like Quoth's demise, not his demise to the end, but just, and this is how I fell from grace, and now I'm at an end, and that's it, you know. And I think that would be a fitting ending for the whole 3-day cycle. Like, it wouldn't be satisfying for the whole world, but I think that could be a fitting end. Or it could be, you know, even more inclusive, and like 3/4 of the way through the book he finishes, and then you get more post, like, end keepers. I don't know. There's so much we want in that book.
Yep.
But
yeah, maybe we haven't done any other episodes on Patrick Rothfuss. Like, you realize
no
that?
King Killer? That's crazy.
Yeah. I was gonna say that this is our debut King Killer, like, dedicated content.
For the amount of time we talk about it and it gets referenced, we have not done any direct episodes.
It's because we were all waiting for book 3.
Yeah, basically.
Oh man.
Or I'm waiting for a time when there's like literally nothing that we can record about because we are all in the middle of books, and like I could bust out a Name of the Wind review at any time.
Yeah.
I'll say one other moment that I liked was there was an extended scene with all like the regulars at the bar that we saw, you know, throughout the King Killer third person framing stories. And it was fun to see them again. I felt like they had the same voice. And I don't know, I wonder where we say like this takes place. I guess we would say this story probably takes place before Chronicler shows up and starts telling the story.
I don't know. I just
be
assumed
after,
it was
either way.
I just assumed it was the most recent and the timeline. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I assumed that. Like, when did the Lightning Tree come out?
I don't remember. It came out in that Rogues anthology that has a few other. I think it has George R. Martin and Joe Abercrombie and Scott Lynch, all like, and several others. So that's anyway. It was one of those.
2014.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Josh.
So in the scene when he was talking about Crazy Martin, he said there is a winter is coming line. And then that's after that he talks about how he's cool with Martin, and how Martin had apologized for something he had said, and now they're cool. Is that
whoa. Wait, what?
In the book,
Really?
there's a winter is coming line, and then I think it's Quoth is talking about, or
they're talking about Bass. They're talking about Bass history with Martin.
Bass history.
Bass was
Martin.
like, this dude is crazy. Quoth is like, he's not crazy. You just got to get to know him.
And then he's like, he apologized for something he had said, and now we're cool.
And he says
because he says winter is coming before they go into this.
That totally went over my head. I was not aware of them ever having any beef. So is this just like an inside joke?
I didn't know of any beef either. I don't know. It was just interesting to me.
I feel like if there was Rothfuss, George R. Martin beef, we would know about it.
But yeah,
that's the stuff the internet puts around in circles forever.
So anyway, wait. So how is George R. R. Martin this crazy PTSD guy? Like,
I don't
other
think
than the winter is coming. Like, I don't know.
It just seemed kind of out of place.
Just a joke?
Like, I think it might have just been a joke, but maybe it was just like an inside joke because he named the character Martin, and then he said winter is coming or whatever. Like, that was probably the extent of it. But like, they did spend a little bit amount of time dwelling on like the process of like Quoth and Martin making up or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of hazy on it because it wasn't too plot relevant, but yeah. Anyway,
I have to go
throwing it out there. My Phantology guarantee.
Okay. Your guarantee is that there is secret beef between.
Yeah, that Martin is the character that Martin is George R. R. Martin written into the story, and that there's some secret beef that Martin has since apologized for, and they're cool now.
Dang.
I'm seeing nothing Googling
juicy,
it.
Man.
Oh, okay.
You got some beef? Google's got some beef?
Winterscoming.net. Last week marked the release of The Narrow Road Between Desires, the first new book, etc., etc.
Did they
To
interview
Mark-
him?
Well, the title of this is "The Time George R.R. Martin Rejected a Patrick Rothfuss Story."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was something. I think it was something about what Bast had written or something that Martin had criticized in the book.
So I guess there was the Rogues Anthology is where Lightning Tree ended up. Sorry, I'm trying to just skim this real quick before we have to go.
I thought, didn't he talk about this in the author's note about the origins of Lightning Tree? Like he was originally going to submit something else, but then he submitted this.
Maybe.
All right, well, check out Jake's link at
So then Rogues
winterscoming.net.
came around.
Good catch, Josh. I did not pick up on that at all, but I like it.
It says, I guess it says winter's coming with a, and
Apostrophe.
and
Yeah.
then it says the innkeeper smiled. I'm sure Martin will be flattered by your glowing recommendation. Bast pale. His expression showed no dismay. By all the course, no, Reshi, he said, waving his hand strangely. Don't tell me I said anything. Don't even tell me the plan of drinking hates me. The innkeeper hid a smile behind his hand. It's not funny, Reshi. I said, he throws rocks at me, not for months. The innkeeper, Martin has been perfectly cordial to the last several times he stopped by for a visit because there are any rocks. Be fair, I'm kind of paraphrasing. Be fair, Bast, the innkeeper said, he's been civil almost half a year, polite even. Remember, he apologized to you 2 months ago. Have you heard Martin ever apologize to anyone else in town? Ever? No, Bast said sulkily, then keeping on. See, that's a big gesture for him.
Okay.
I'm just saying. After winter's coming, it like goes kind of into like a kind of diatribe about Martin apologizing.
Okay,
it doesn't.
well, I don't
yeah, it
know if
doesn't
I want
say
to. I don't
anything
know if
on
I
this.
want to throw my hat into the ring on that one. Like
I'm
Josh
throwing
has.
it in.
Josh is
Yeah.
already. You're also joining the guarantee, Jake.
Yeah, the article doesn't guarantee anything, but I'm convinced. So
This is Fantology.
Okay.
We guarantee it.
yeah,
All
this
right.
is the Fantology guarantee. You guys are all aware of the weight that holds. So
Yeah,
I'm
they've always
copying
been
and
accurate
pasting
in the past.
the link in fantasy news as we speak. So you guys
This
will
is like
already have seen it.
news 9 years in the making.
No, this article came out 7 days ago.
Well, if it was related to his submission to the Rogues Anthology, that was 9 years ago.
But the
Yeah, but
article
he's airing
was
it
the
now.
22nd. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, we're gonna make it a thing. Apparently,
We're making no, it was already a thing. We're hopping on the bandwagon.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Any other like actual things related to the book that we need to bring up?
It was good. I mean,
Just
I guess
really,
rating, I'd say 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. I don't know. It was great. And no notes really, could have been longer, and because anything could be longer, but yeah.
yeah. I'd say
Yeah,
like 8 out of 10. Really good writing, really good prose, and like some really vivid scenes. It's cool.
Yeah, for what I was trying to do, like obviously awesome job. I'd maybe say like 9 out of 10. Great novella. I don't read a ton of novellas, but I really enjoyed this one. The only downside for me is it just kind of made me a little bit sad seeing, into the meta conversation of like, this is what it takes to get this book out. Therefore, what can we expect in the future? Hard to say. And I mean, also in my attempts to write, like, I feel like I'm also super obsessively compulsive about every word that I choose. And so that does not inspire a lot of hope for me ever.
Yeah.
But that's a different story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. See you later.
Yep.
See you guys.